So I am joined today on Videoguys Live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time with Stephen Heywood from Telestream. Stephen, do me a favor and just give a quick introduction to our audience.
Hey, Jim. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. Yes, I work at Telestream. I do a lot of their live video for the marketing department and some tutorial videos. We do a show every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern called On Social,
Great.
and we specialize in producing live, high-quality video on social platforms.
That's great because I know a lot of our audience that joins us every Tuesday has nothing better to do on Thursday, so now they can tune into your show.
There you go.
So, Stephen, one of the big reasons I wanted to invite you on is because you're doing this live show and you're actually using the equipment that we're talking about, as are we. One of the reasons it was important for Videoguys Live to go live every single week is to show that we're drinking the Kool-Aid and actually using the products that our customers are using. We know the challenges they're going to run into, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So, Stephen, I know you're very familiar with the Wirecast Gear, but you're also familiar with some of these PTZOptics cameras and XKeys controller that I have up here on the table in front of me as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. I have all that stuff in my studio here.
Well, that's great. For our customers who don't have all this stuff in the studio, the reason we're coming to you live today is to talk to you about a great bundle promotion that we've put together. Your team over at Telestream actually did an excellent job reaching out directly to the people at PTZOptics and XKeys to kind of join everyone's heads together to create an unbelievable bundle package that will allow our customers to earn up to a $500 instant rebate. And this all starts and begins with the production box itself, which is the Telestream Wirecast Gear. Stephen, I know there are 3 different versions of the Wirecast Gear, so if you could just give a quick overview to our audience on what sets these apart.
Absolutely. So the differences between the 310 and the 320 units is the HDMI versus SDI. So the 310 will have the HDMI, the 320 will have the SDI.
Okay.
And then the differences between the 310, 320, and then the highest version, which is the 420, is the discrete GPU, which is an Nvidia graphics card, which has 4 DisplayPort outs on it and 4 1080p simultaneous 60 frames per second NVENC hardware encoding options. So you get a lot more bang for your buck in that. With my current 420 unit, I'm actually powering 7 monitors in the studio, splitting some signals, and still have a DisplayPort open for that.
Wow.
The 420 versus the 310, the 320, there's also a dedicated 5th input with a Blackmagic SDI input and output. So there's an input and an output that you can use independently of one another. This will also support the audio channels, all the audio channels that a Blackmagic or the SDI will support. So that's like your major differences. Now, the other iteration of gear that we had, one of the big things that we had is an additional hard drive in it, but it was mechanical. This has no moving parts except for the fans in it. There's a lot of competitors out there that they have moving hard drives. This thing you can throw in a flight case, get on a plane, go somewhere, not run the risk of any of your whichever Wirecast gear you decide to purchase. Run the risk of it failing because of a hard drive. It's all solid state, no moving parts. Like I said, just basically the fans are the moving parts on it.
And that's one of the things I love about the system. It really, all it is a turnkey Windows PC with the Wirecast software and the IOs that you talked about pre-installed and optimized together. But when you talk about the non-moving parts, that gives a live producer the capability of taking it and throwing it into a Pelican case, rack mounting it into a Rode case, or putting it into their studio setup, all with the same ease and capabilities, really giving them a lot of flexibility for that hardware device.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I like to think of it as it's fine-tuned for Wirecast because it has the server-grade cooling, 3 intake fans, a custom ductwork to the CPU cooling. It's got like a squirrel cage in it that blows the heat out the back of the unit. And we had actually a third party validate in a thermal lab with no overheating issues. And I'm going to kind of switch to a camera. Like I have mine set up right here in this rack with all this other rack gear in the studio. And as you can see, there's no room for breathable. I mean, I got some fans in there, but honestly, it actually, I haven't had any issues with it overheating or any problems like that. So,
Yep.
And I run it 24/7, Jim. So, I mean, I run pre-recorded live. I mean, it's running right now as we speak. So it's doing a lot of things.
That's great. That's great to hear. I know we're using one right here. We have the XKeys controller mounted right on top of the unit itself. It's not one of those boxes that I can scramble eggs on. It actually is very cool to the touch. It's actually a very impressive design. And I was impressed with the first generation of the Wirecast Gear. These boxes that we're talking about now, the 310, the 320, the 420, are actually the second generation unit. And one of the things we like to say is we actually usually point to the 420 as almost even a third generation because of all of the significant upgrades that you guys have put into that box. My favorite is the Nvidia GPU. The
Yes.
Nvidia GPU is something that we have sold in the post-production world for years. If you want to edit with Avid or Adobe, you need that processing power. And now you're building it into the live production box to give that power as well.
And I'm sure you guys in your studio do what I do in my studio, and I know Telestream does in their studio, is you have a high NDI workflow. Well, the new Wirecast Gear has 2 Ethernet ports on the back for heavy NDI workflows that will automatically, work together to give you the best bandwidth route for your NDI solutions. So that's big.
That really is big. So the second element to this bundle is this XKeys controller that I just alluded to. This XKeys controller on its own is $659.95, and that's a great value in order to get that hardware tactile device to help control as your interface to the Wirecast software. A simple USB connection to the Wirecast Gear, and this box was actually designed and developed for use with Wirecast. Is that correct?
That is correct. I have one. I'm looking over here. I have one here in the studio as well. And like you, we had this discussion earlier. Based on our age group, we like our hardware buttons. And I ran Wirecast many years with a mouse and keyboard. And then the folks in the community, you talked about the chat room, there were some guys in there that could make Apple scripts. So they took an old Korg Nano controller, a MIDI controller, and they made it to work with Wirecast. And I used that for many years, and I was like, man, we need this. And here it is today. We have a fantastic controller that, I use in the church to train volunteers. It's a great piece of kit, Jim, and I think everybody should get their hands on one of these if you're in a pro or semi-pro environment or even a volunteer status.
Yeah, absolutely. And the comment that you were alluding to a second ago, we actually spoke to our customers and did our own informal market research study. And one of the things we found is that if you're speaking to someone using the system, that the line is usually about the age of 30, 35. Those that are older than 35 want that hardware tactile feedback. The younger crowd, they want to open up a touchscreen monitor or an iPad and do everything on the screen in front of them. The great thing, in my opinion, about Wirecast is you really have all of these options available so you can make it fit whatever workflow works best for you.
Absolutely. It'll grow with you. And I think that's, like you said, that's one of the cool parts with it. Yeah. You can buy it and work your way up. It's fantastic.
No, that's awesome. And we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail as well. One of the reasons in putting together this bundle, and I know the reason that your crew reached out to PTZOptics, is because last year at the NAB show, Wirecast actually worked with PTZOptics to integrate PTZ Camera Control into the software directly. So, Stephen, have you ever used that PTZ Camera Control on your own?
I played with it a little bit during the beta. Again, I use a lot of hardware, but I know one of the big key things in it, and when we were testing with it, is the virtual shot paradigm, and I don't know if you've played a little bit with that, but the virtual shot preset, I guess the best way I could explain it, one of the ways is, you know, when you're watching the news,
Yep.
and they start out with a wide shot and it comes in really tight to the person that's doing the hosting. That's a way that you can now set up in Wirecast, by simply duplicating the shot input, and then for each shot select the camera preset
Yep.
that you want. And I'm sure you're going to get into that with the PTZOptics cameras. You can set presets for different camera shots,
Yeah.
essentially giving you unlimited sources that make it look like you're using multitudes of cameras, but you're actually using one camera at different angles, different zoom in points, and things like that. So it basically eliminates the need of needing a camera operator. So that's one of the key functionalities of our PTZ camera control within Wirecast.
Yeah, and that's one of the big reasons why we promote bundles like this, is because there are a lot of one-man shows or churches that are relying on volunteer resources where that human component is the most scarce commodity for them to add to their production. So when you add a PTZ camera to help complement your workflow, you can create those presets to create a multiple camera look. You can easily control the pan, tilt, and zoom. That's the inherent capability of the camera. I actually have a demo here with this Wirecast Gear that I can show some of the camera controls and the flexibility within Wirecast. The first thing I'd like to point out is the fact that my PTZ camera control is available in either a D-pad or a directional pad, a map, or an analog pad. So on the directional pad, it's very easy. I can take my camera that you can see here and easily pan left or right. On the map, I can go into the map, pick a field where I want that to zoom to, and I can go to that field. Now this is the same way that I would jump from one camera preset to another, as Stephen was just talking about. And then of course with the analog pad, I have a little bit more control where I can control the movement of that camera just by controlling the region on where I'm going. Of course, if I rehearse this, I'd be able to control that camera even better. And obviously, the more you use the cameras, the devices, the presets, you can put all of that into Wirecast and really tailor it to your production.
And I think,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, what with that, I think one of the key elements too is that we talked about hardware with you know, people of our age group want to use hardware, but there's no artificial limit within the PTZ camera control within Wirecast. So unlike hardware, like if you have a hardware joystick, you might be limited to 350 cameras depending on your workflow. Wirecast, there's really no limit.
Great. So for my next production where I have 360 cameras, I can use the Wirecast software.
I want to see that, because I want to see you control all those.
That'll be interesting, to say the least. So obviously the last part of that bundle is the PTZOptics PTZ cameras. And what I really want to mention to our customers is that we've configured these bundles in such a way that they can be built a la carte. You can start with any one of those three versions of the Wirecast Gear production systems that Stephen and I talked about. Next, you add the XKeys controller, and then the final step is you work with our team, and we can help you figure out which PTZOptics cameras you need. And that can apply to any of the SDI model or NDI model PTZOptics PTZ cameras. The greatest thing is now if you add a second camera to your bundle, so let me rewind. So if you take the production unit, the XKeys, and a single PTZOptics camera, your bundle savings right off the top is a $400 instant rebate. If you add a second PTZOptics camera, like I have on the table here in front of me, now you can maximize your rebate with a $500 instant rebate off of the bundle. That's a considerable rebate that now you can put into other gear, other equipment, or right into your pocket. So it's a $500 bundle rebate in this package that we've put together with Telestream, XKeys, and PTZOptics. In addition to these a la carte configurations, we've also put together some pre-configured bundles. Stephen, you and I were talking earlier about a corporate installation that I was just working with, where they took a Wirecast Gear 310 system with the XKeys controller and 2 PTZOptics cameras to put together kind of a complete package to give corporate presentations to their staff all over the globe. I'm sure you've spoken to customers like that all the time.
Oh, absolutely. In this day and age, telecommuting is no longer a thing of the past, and it's
Yep.
a great way for companies, to get their message out without having the expense of travel and the expense of sending people on location. You can get it all done right with products like Gear. And I personally have compared it against some of the competitors out there, and unless there's certain features that you're looking for, diehard for, if you feel they're worth $10,000 to $15,000, you got a great price here in this bundle to get you up and running for $10,000 to $15,000 less.
And that's an important note too. With the Wirecast software, that's really driving the entire bus here. Is Telestream offers a ton of training materials right on your own website, and you're live doing this stuff every single week on your own show. So the amount
Yes.
of content and tips and stuff that's available is really huge for people to be able to draw from and to help get them started in the world of live streaming.
Absolutely. And it's easier than ever. I mean, I remember starting 12 years ago and you had like Cam Twist and ManyCam, and now we have all these great options, and now Telestream is no longer just software, but the gear is hardware, and we've partnered with some great companies like PTZOptics, and you're seeing me on a PTZOptics camera right now. So, I mean, I love those cameras.
Yep.
I use them all the time. I've been using them for years. Great company to work with. So, I mean, I think for most churches, most schools, the ease of use of the software in Wirecast, the plug and play capabilities of the Wirecast gear, the plug and play capabilities of the cameras, and even the XKeys, you'll be up and running in a few short time. And I know, Jim, you've got a lot of folks there that can help with setup as well.
Absolutely. We have the guys that are actually producing our show today. They're our tech support staff and can help answer any of the questions. So by all means, you can reach out to Adam, Oliver, or Jen, and they can help answer a lot of these questions. But on the screen here, what I have here, this complete bundle with the live production system, 2 cameras, and the XKeys controller comes in at under $10,000. With that bundle rebate, you're at $94.99. That means that not only you can get a full-featured live production system, but when we're talking about corporate, education, even house of worship, that $10,000 threshold allows them to get a complete package, a lot of times at below a P-card limit.
Yes, absolutely. And the ability for churches to power many monitors and not just, 1 or 2. That's one thing with this gearbox. I can honestly say, like I said, I'm powering 7 monitors with 1 display port to spare. Now, some of those monitors are split as far as they're splitting the signal. It's the same signal on 2 monitors. But the fact that it's doing that at 12% CPU, as you know,
Yep.
is phenomenal.
Absolutely. Now, I know we've done a lot of work with customers in the sports production space, and a lot of times in that market, they're running up and down the sidelines with SDI cameras because of the long cable runs. So in that case, I would probably want to upgrade from the 310 system to the 320. Is that correct?
320 or even going all the way up and going 420. Absolutely.
So the 420, that's going to be my next question. That additional processing power is going to make it even easier for me to do things like instant replay, to add additional NDI sources, to really push the hardware aspect of that Wirecast gearbox.
Well, just having that GPU, because
Right.
you're able to offload your encoding to that GPU. So whereas I guess the easiest way to put it for the audience is if you weren't using GPU accelerated encoding, you might sit at a 720 to 1080p stream anywhere from 30, 40, maybe even 50% CPU on a normal machine. With GPU acceleration, it knocks it way down to 10 to 15%.
Wow.
And you have the ability to do 4 simultaneous 1080p 60 frame per second encoding. So if you're going to Facebook, YouTube, I'm trying to think another, your games, you might go to
Twitch.
Twitch.
Yep,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, esports is huge right now. So
Yep.
having that ability to offload that to your GPU and still not giving up any of outputs, esports, you're going to need monitors so you can view what's going on. You're also going to need an interface monitor. The 420 is the total package. I mean, that's what I have in my studio. That's what I wanted because I knew what kind of productions I'm doing. I think having that GPU is the key to, get everything you need out the door, regardless if you're using
Yeah.
NDI or you're using the PTZ cameras as is with SDI.
Well, I gotta tell you, if there's one customer base that we don't have to sing the virtues of having that GPU, it would be the esports market. I mean, these guys are used to needing that graphics processing power, and they understand the value that they're adding to a machine by having the right GPU in there.
Absolutely. And I do my own little thing off to the side. I do a show with retro gaming and retro arcades, and I have a few of those arcades in here where I'm actually sending the signal from a arcade using an NDI device to send to the Wirecast Gear so I can do a show like this and show the gameplay, or have my son over there manning the arcade and telling him to go into the menus as we give demonstrations and tutorials. And like you said, having that high GPU, especially with gaming,
Oh yeah,
is a must. It's a must.
absolutely, absolutely. The last piece of the component that we like to add to the bundle is, of course, the Wirecast Gear HERE. Gear HERE is Telestream's extended support services that gives you 3 years of coverage. Now, it's important to note that every Wirecast Gear box comes with 1 year of coverage from Telestream. The Gear HERE extends that to 3 full years of coverage with priority telephone support, advanced replacement. If ever there should be a problem with the Wirecast Gear box, Telestream will replace that in advance so you don't have to lose, or so you lose as little downtime as possible. And of course, all software upgrades and updates that should happen during that time. Again, it is the Wirecast Pro software that is driving the live production capability within the Wirecast Gear system itself. This box is completely upgradable. Now, Stephen, that brings up a good point that I really like to mention in talking about the Wirecast Gear systems, is that these boxes, even though they're Windows machines, you've optimized it for live production. So I can trust that there's not going to be a Windows update that happens 30 seconds before I'm about to go live. Is that right?
Well, I mean, that's the hope, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft does a lot of things with it. But like you said, one of the benefits of this box, as like you said, being a Windows box, I know a lot of the other folks out there that have boxes, they lock them down where you can't put like your Adobe Creative Suite on it, and you can't put additional editing software on it. And when you're out in the field, you don't want to take 5 computers. This is a way that you can put it on there. You have your Wirecast. When you're running the Wirecast, you're done. And any post-production that you want to do, you have that ability all in one on that Windows-based machine. And it's powerful enough to get your video encoding work done.
And that's an important part of the workflow that's becoming even more and more popular, is people are producing long-form content live, and then they're trying to post-produce down and pull out little snippets that they can use for social media marketing or to post as a little snippet on a specific area, and that's being repurposed throughout the industry. To be able to install your post-production software and run it just as easily on this box is really a great feature and benefit.
Absolutely. Even just as simple as, let's say, Jim, you're on location and you need to send back the files to headquarters because maybe the bandwidth isn't the greatest, but you have enough bandwidth to upload to an FTP server. You can install that FTP client on the box, upload your video, and the guys back in the studio can get that content and distribute it out to YouTube, Facebook, and all those other great platforms that we all like to go to.
That's great. I even know of an application where I can install a piece of software called RTMP Mini Server. And now I can take live view solo units all over the
Yes.
globe and feed them back into the Wirecast Gear.
It's funny you bring up Live View Solo. I have one of them here in my studio as well. I love that box, and it's a great way to give you the bandwidth that you need
Yep.
when you're out there where there's no bandwidth. So
Yeah.
absolutely, we play nice with that hardware as well.
And we sell them as well. Look at that.
Look at
So
that. Look at that.
it's a great plug. But it's funny because we've used the Live View Solo in the past as an output from the Wirecast
Yes.
Gear streaming to the Solo. Now you talked about the portability and being able to take this anywhere. Now the Live View Solo allows you to stream from anywhere. But now this workflow with that RTMP mini server allows you to bring the Live View Solo into this in your studio. To me, that opens up a whole other world of possibilities. And I believe you're even, Greg over at Telestream, is working with the Indiana Central Schools on doing a case study with some of their sports broadcasting, showing that exact workflow. So I can't wait to see that stuff coming out also.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of really cool things, and again, you're only limited by your slowest component when it comes to Wirecast, where it can always grow. You can bring in NDI sources, your iPhones. You can bring in RTMP, RTSP, HTTP, MMS messaging protocols, all these types of protocols into Wirecast. You're not limited, again, on this gearbox. Some of the other guys that are out there, if they're SDI, that's all you get to bring in. But now with Wirecast, you can bring in NDI, SDI, USB webcams, USB capture devices, whatever. You're not limited to what's just in the box. You can bring all that stuff in. So that's one of the things that I like, and I think a lot of the tinkerers like that, to see how much they can push devices like this to maximize their workflow.
Absolutely. And it's great when you have that kind of flexibility in both hardware and software that allows those tinkerers to really do what they do best.
And I've seen some great broadcasts with that.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yes.
Not this one, but there's others out there, I'm sure. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today. You're a great guest. I think we got some great information out there. Any parting words for our customers?
Hey, I really appreciate you, Jim, having us on here, and I'd encourage everybody to go out there and check out this bundle, because I think it's going to take your video production to the next level, getting that installed in your studio, your church, or even your business.
And check out Stephen's show every Thursday at 2 p.m.
Yes, check out On Social, just about on every social platform.
Awesome. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Until next time, have a great day. So again, I want to talk about these Wirecast Gear bundles. Wirecast Gear, choose any version, any flavor, 310, 320, or 420. Add the XKeys controller and any PTZOptics PTZ camera, the SDI camera or the NDI camera, and that's a $400 instant rebate. Add a second PTZOptics PTZ camera, and you can maximize your savings by getting a $500 bundle rebate. If you'd like to talk to our team to figure out which Wirecast Gear system or which PTZOptics cameras are best for your workflow, give us a call at 800-323-2325. You can also email me directly, jim@videoguys.com, and I'd be happy to help get that conversation started and help you choose the right products for your needs and your budget. We have some great shows coming up. Gary will be with us again next week, talking about the full Atomos family of monitors. Atomos makes some great 5-inch, 7-inch, and 19-inch HDR monitors, and really have a monitor with built-in recording and HDR that are great for every production application. The following week, we are going to be talking about the status of NDI, all the great new NDI products and NDI capabilities like the Wirecast Gear that we talked about today. And then we're looking forward to doing a PTZ camera roundup. We get asked all the time, what's the best PTZ camera for your capability? We will help compare and contrast and help you choose the right one for your workflow and for your budget. Are you best with a PTZOptics SDI camera or an NDI camera? Are there other cameras like the Bird Dog outdoor all-weather camera that might be better suited for your application? We'll help you decide on the pros and cons of each. And now, with the SDI and NDI technology, you don't necessarily choose to just one. You can add different cameras to different parts of your workflow, and they'll all play well together. So definitely look for Gary to do a great job. Again, Wirecast Gear, PTZOptics, and XKeys bundles with savings up to $500 off, available now at Videoguys.com through March 31st. Give us a call at 800-323-2325.
Videoguys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.